I kind of also acknowledge that it does a great job of kind of disaggregating the power and making small producers able to potentially access money for their work. But at what point do you think it gets to the stage where kind of the digital experience starts kind of cannibalising the live experience, particularly from an organisational perspective, and particularly from the point of view of kind of financial sustainability of those organisations?
Yeah, I think it's a great question. And it's a great question, and it's not an easy answer, because I think if the audience wants it, you need to give it to them, even if it starts to cannibalise other assets. A great example of a company that refused to do that was Kodak, who actually came up with a digital camera in the 70s, refused to release it because they were worried about it cannibalising their film business, and now they're in bankruptcy. And that was the amazing thing that Apple did, was that bringing out the iPhone completely decimated their previous invention. What's it called? The iPod. But they did it anyway. So I think there's no easy solution. And also touching to a point that was made previously about business models, a lot of the business models, like the music business model, is a pretty new business model. You've got to remember, not so long ago, we're all shouting up and down about Napster and how to, and that was stealing rights away. But we had to go through that period of ambiguity in order to come up with a business model that now is making trillions for be it iTunes or Pandora or all these other organisations. So I think worrying about cannibalisation, I think, is a short-term issue. Figuring out how you can leverage the shift is actually a more sustainable perspective.
And to flow on from that, I think the question that needs to be asked around that, I'm trying to see if I remember how Kieran put it earlier on, but it's understanding why. What's the real value that people get out of it over and above the intrinsic benefit of the art itself? Because if they're doing it because they get a sense of community, belonging, or because it gives them a new view on the world, you can scale that experience without having to dilute the art, because what you can do is you found something that you have in common with that audience, and actually it's about how can you make that bigger rather than necessarily just distributing art. Does that make sense? I think it's a kind of, I always think of it as a sort of, if I talk to my clients about this, that if the brand and the consumer were to meet at a party, what would they talk about? And I think a brand that did it really well is Pedigree Chum. Like 10 years ago, Pedigree Chum was talking about 8 out of 10 breeders recommend it. Now, if the brand and just the ordinary dog owner would meet at a party, they'd have nothing to talk about unless they were breeders. But now they're for dogs, and that's easy. I'm for dogs. I'm for dogs too. And that allows them to talk about nutrition. It allows them to have dog schools.